Hello everyone. Today we are going to do a basic GraphQL CRUD operation with .NET 6 and Hot Chocolate version 12 library. Okay, so what is an GraphQL? GraphQL is an open source data query and manipulation and language for API. Okay, it is a query language for your API and server-side runtime for executing the queries by using a type system you define for your data. GraphQL can be integrated into any framework like .NET, Java, Nest.js, etc. It isn't tied to any specific database or storage engine and is backed by every existing code and data. Okay, so GraphQL mainly involves in two operations like query, which is for fetching the data, and mutation, that is for data manipulation like save, update, delete operations that going to happen at the server. Okay. What is Hot Chocolate GraphQL? Hot Chocolate is an open source GraphQL server that is a compliant with the newest GraphQL latest specs. It is the wrapper library for the original .NET GraphQL library. Hot Chocolate takes the complexity away from the building a fully fledged GraphQL server. Hot Chocolate is a NuGet library for .NET and .NET Core for implementing the GraphQL server. So in this demo, we are going to create a small .NET Core Web API application, and in that we are going to integrate GraphQL server, and then we are going to implement basic CRUD operations. Okay. So this is my sample SQL database table, which I am going to use in my demo. So let's create a .NET Core Web API project with the latest version .NET 6. So here I am using .NET CLI for creating my project. So command is like .NET space new space Web API space, and a small correction. I have to give the flag like -o. Okay. Then space name of your project. Let's create the project. So my project is successfully created. Let me open my project in Visual Studio Code Editor. So this is my project, and here you can observe the latest version .NET 6.0. Now as a first step, let's create a Inti framework database context into our application for communicating with the SQL Server tables. So let's install Microsoft.Inti framework for NuGet package. Install it. Now install Microsoft.Inti framework core.sql NuGet library. Install it. Okay. Now let's create a entity that represents my SQL Server table. Create a folder like data. Inside of it, add a folder like entities. Inside of it, let's create our table entity. So cake.cs is my table entity. So this is my entity table class. So let's add the properties that are exact match to the table column names. So finally, our class look like this. Now let's create a database context class. Inside of the data folder, let's add a class like. So this is a plain C# class. Now to make it the database context class, we should inherit DB context that loads from Inti framework core. Okay, let's inject the DB context options into the constructor. And inside of the DB context, we have to register our table entity classes. So here our table entity class registered as a property, and the name of the property should match the name of our table in the SQL server. Now, in app settings.json file, let's add a connection string to our database. So I'm going to use the development.json since my local environment is development. So let's add your connection string here. Now register the myworlddb context into program.cs file. Builder services add db context and specify our db context class type. So to this SQL server, pass our connection string. To do that, I can use builder.configuration.get connection string and here paste our connection string property. So that's all about the implementing database context into our application. Now let's install the hotchocolate.asp netcore NuGet package. Install it. After installing hot chocolate NuGet library in program.cs file, let's register the GraphQL server. For that, builder.services.add GraphQL server. Okay. And now register the GraphQL endpoint. For that, app.map GraphQL endpoint. Okay. So if you hover here, the path will be default path will be /GraphQL. If you want to override the path, you can add here because in GraphQL, any type of query or any type of mutation operation takes under single endpoint. Okay, there won't be multiple endpoints like we do in Web API. Okay, so I will leave default endpoint. Now, as a first operation, I want to do read operation because I had some dummy data in my database. So I want to retrieve them by writing GraphQL query. Okay, so we know that reading operation in GraphQL called querying. So what we have to do means create a new folder like GQL types. Inside of it, let add a query type.cs. Okay, this is a normal C# class. I named it like query type. So this class will contain all the queries, means all GraphQL fetching queries will be added here. So I can name it like a query type. So this class contains methods. That methods technically from GraphQL point of view can be called as resolvers. Resolvers are equivalent to the methods only. Okay. So let me create a method for fetching all records from my table. So this is my resolver method which returns collection of cakes from the cakes as a response. So now I want to consume the DB context. So it is always recommended to consume the database context method level because we have registered our database as scoped, right? So it should be registered here itself. don't register in the constructor level. Okay, sorry, not registering, don't inject at the constructor level database context. So to inject the database context at method level, we have to add a attribute like service, okay, that loads from hot chocolate dot service attribute. And here you can define our database context. And now I simply return all the records of my cake table. Now our resolver method is ready to deliver the response. Now go to program.cs file. We have mentioned GraphQL consists of queries and mutations, right? So we have to register our query types here. Dot add query type. To that query type, I can pass my class name. Okay. That's it. We are ready to query our GraphQL endpoint. Let's run the application. Okay, now navigate to GraphQL endpoint. Okay, this is the URL. Navigate to GraphQL endpoint. So here, Hot Chocolate provides us a tool for testing GraphQL endpoint. Okay, that tool is Banana Cake Pop. It is a very effective and effective tool for testing GraphQL where it provides intelligence for creating the GraphQL queries and mutations. So let's click on create document. Okay, okay, click on apply. Okay. Now first I want to fetch the data, right? That means query. Here you can specify C. Intelligence is coming. Query. Query means it is a keyword that represent. Here I am requesting a query. Okay. Now inside of it, if I enter control space, see, it is showing all cakes. So what is this all cake? This all cake is nothing but a resolver method in our query type class. Okay, if you have n number of resolver methods, if you enter control space, all those names will be displayed. But by convention, the resolver method in C# we will write in caps, right, starting letter. But GraphQL, it treats small case. But we no need to worry because intelligence is provided by the this tool. Okay, now open flower braces. Okay, if we enter again control space, here see, it is showing collection of properties of our cake type. Okay, so here we can specify which properties I want to return as a response. See, here I want to requesting the server, I want only ID and the name. If you want all remaining columns, you can specify, but I want only 2 columns. See, this is the beauty of the hot chocolate. We can request the server what to return in the response. Okay, and here naming convention also same. The starting letter of the properties will be smaller case. Now click on here run button. See here, all the data from the server is coming as a response. And you can observe here one more thing. Properties only server returning ID and name. But my cake class, what I have around 4 properties. It is not returning all the properties. And if you observe, resolver method is returning list of cakes only. But server only filter the response and sending only the properties that we are requested. For suppose if I request price as well and run again, see now price is coming. So that is the beauty of GraphQL. We can only request the required property. Okay, and the root property in GraphQL will be always data, and the response, okay, response parent property is nothing but the name of our resolver method we requested here. Okay, so that's all about the read operation. Now let's implement the create operation, creating a new record. So creating means comes under mutation, means creating, updating, deleting comes under mutation. So what we will do, we will create a one more type in the GQL type folder mutation type dot cs. So here is our mutation type class, which is a plain normal class. Here also similar to query type class, we will create methods, nothing but the resolvers. So let's create a method for saving the data into the database. Okay. So this is my method. Let's inject the DB context by adding service attribute. Okay. And I want to have another property that is nothing but the payload to create the new request. So that is how I will use same table entity here. If you want, you can create a DTO. Okay. So I name it like new cake, and here simply I can use context dot cake dot add new cake, my new cake, and await. I will invoke the database save changes async, and I will just return the entire object. Okay. So this is my resolver method. So for saving the data. So similar to query type, we have to register the mutations as well. Go to program.cs file. Okay. Add mutation type. Okay. Mutation type. Okay. Now let's run and test our create operation. Okay. Now create another tab. Let me leave this query here itself and create another tab. Okay. Now if you type like a mutation C, intelligence is showing. So this request is mutation. This keyword is for specifying the type. Here it is mutation. And if you enter control space C, save cake. That is nothing but the method of our resolver method name. So if I go to mutation type, save cake. See, async will be trimmed by automatically by the GraphQL schema. Okay. Async, some keywords are there, right? Async. So that keyword is automatically trimmed by the GraphQL server. Okay. And here we returning entire cake object, right? So here also I will request like newly created record ID. Okay. And now we have to post some data, right? How to post? Okay. So to post data, we have to use GraphQL variables. So here you can see GraphQL variables. Okay. So here what I will do, I will create a object, JSON object only, this one. Okay. Add cake. Okay. That is my root property name. So this is a plain JSON object. Here I am assigning 0, that represents ID 0 means new record, and some description and name of my cake and price. Okay. So this is the payload I want to send. So how to map this variable to our mutation query? So to map our variable, here mutation at the top level, add circular braces. Okay. So here we have added cake, right? Copy this. Okay. And append dollar to it. Okay. So that represents GraphQL variable. So while using in the mutation, we have to prefix with the dollar. Okay. The root property name. And here we have to specify the type also. What type of payload we are sending. So if you observe here, we are sending cake, right? If you control space here after semicolon, you can see cake input. So GraphQL schema generated a type based on our property post property type. So here it is cake, right? So GraphQL, it has its own condition. What it will do, it will append input. See, cake is server type. To that, it will append input and it will treat it as like a GraphQL type. Okay, that is the naming convention. And now this variable, GraphQL variable, we have to post it. So our method, what we have defined some variable, right? Same exact variable, copy that variable name and specify here after the save and open column and add that add add cake. Okay, so what we are doing, we have created a JSON data as a variable, and that variable will be used as a GraphQL variable by appending dollar, and we have to define the type that is based on our server type, but it will prefix input. So cake input is a GraphQL type. Okay, and new cake, this is the variable of our resolver method as it is, and to that variable we have to assign the GraphQL data. So let's click on run. So here it is showing throwing some error. Okay. Here we haven't specified like this is a non-nullable. We have specified like a non-nullable, right? So here also we have to specify non-nullable. For that we have to add exclamatory. This represents any type prefixed with exclamatory means that is a non-nullable type. Now run again. So this field price is doesn't exist. Sorry. These names should be in smaller cases. See, record is successfully created and here new ID. If I go to query tab and request again, I can see the new data here. See, strawberry cake, which is newly added. Okay, so that's about the create operation. So now let's do the update operation. So update operation also comes under mutation, right? So what you will do, just copy this entire code here. Okay, and change name like it is a new resolver for update. And I will write like update cake. Okay, and here I can use update method and I can pass update cake and I simply return update cake. Okay, so this is my update method. Okay, now save it and go for testing. So go to second tab, or let me open one more tab for update. Okay, what I will do, I will copy this entire data because here also posting, right? We have to have a data. So I will name it like update variable name. I am changing. If you leave same also not a problem. It is our own naming convention. Okay, and here I have to specify the ID value. What is the latest record ID value? So copy this ID value, assign it here because we are updating record. So what I will update, strawberry sweet flavored cake and price will be 80,000. Okay, now copy this entire mutation query and paste here and change the update cake variable. And since here also we are using cake only, right, in resolver method for posting, so it type will be same like cake input. Suppose if your type is cake DTO, then you have then GraphQL generate type like cake DTO input. Okay, and we have to change the resolver name update cake, and here we have to specify the name of our variable of the resolver. Okay, copy this and assign it. Okay, so what we are doing, we are doing same query as create query, but I have changed the GraphQL variable name. Okay, and here we are using the resolver method name that is update cake. So here I want all the properties to check description. The comma is not mandatory. If you give also not a problem here while specifying the name property names. Okay, description name price. Okay, let's run and test. See, I got updated sweet flavored dehydrate and price also I updated. To confirm it, let's go to query window and execute. So here we are, see price, updated price we are getting. Let's add description also. Here you can see strawberry sweet flavored cake. So from that we can understand update is successful. Okay. Next, let's implement our last operation, that is delete operation. So for delete operation also comes under the mutation only. So for that what I will do, I will add one more resolver method. So this is my method. So for this delete method, I want to return a message, just simple string, and inject the database context. Okay. After and also specify the ID of the record we want to delete. Okay. Now what we can do, where cake to equal to fetch the record from the database first. Okay. Pass our ID. So if record not exist, okay, we are trying to deleting the invalid record. So I will simply return a message like invalid request. Sorry, invalid operation, like that I can return simple string. Okay, if the record exists, then detach the record from our context. So context dot cake dot remove and pass the cake to delete object and invoke our DB context. Okay, and simply return success. Sorry, deleted. Okay, so this is my resolving method. So here we are simply here now passing simple scalar property, not an object, right? Okay. Now let's test it. So let me open one more window for delete operation. Okay. So here I can write like mutation. Okay. If you do control space, you can see three resolver methods in the mutation file. So select the delete cake. Okay. And delete cake also need to send the ID property. Right. So for that also we have to use the variable, GraphQL variable. Since it is a scalar property, not a object, I can do directly like ID. And I want to delete our newly created record ID. Let's fetch that record ID. So our newly created record ID is 1802. So assign it to it. Okay. Then here variable we know, right? $ID. Same name we have to use here and it type. See, GraphQL will also have scalar types like string and int. Specify it here. Since here ID is a not nullable value, right? So I have to give exclamatory after it. Now to this delete, I have to pass. So my ID variable should match with the input parameter of my resolver method. Okay. So this is fixed. Input parameter must always match with our resolver method name. But GraphQL variable name, you can define anything. But here you can define anything, and here you have to just add the prefix to that. Okay. Since it won't return anything, I can remove the braces. Okay. It is only return simple string, right? So let's run. Okay. I have to specify here type $ID. Okay. Now I can execute the mutation. See, I got message successfully deleted, means record is deleted. Let's test by querying it. See, 1802 is no more in our list. That means delete operation is successfully done. So that's all about a basic demo on CRUD operation by implementing GraphQL into our .NET 6 application with the help of Hot Chocolate version 12 library. Okay, I hope this video has delivered some useful information to you all. So if you like my video, please support me by subscribing to my channel. Soon we are going to meet with new videos. Until then, signing off.